When a racist manager spots a black janitor mopping the floors of his high-rise office, he fires him on the spot without a second thought, unaware that the janitor is actually the undercover CEO. And this humiliation is about to unleash a corporate reckoning that exposes deep-seated bias and sparks unbreakable change. The gleaming lobby of Apex Innovations Tower in downtown Chicago buzz with the morning rush. Suits hustling past with coffee cups, elevators dinging like impatient bells, the air scented with polished marble and faint espresso. At 45, Elijah Grant blended into the shadows, pushing a mop bucket across the floor in faded blue overalls, a baseball cap pulled low over his close-cropped hair. His hands, calloused not from janitorial work, but from years of building an empire, gripped the handle steadily. As the founder and CEO of Apex, a tech firm revolutionizing renewable energy, Elijah had gone undercover to root out inefficiencies. But what he uncovered was far worse, a culture of quiet racism festering under the surface. Elijah had started Apex from his garage a decade ago, turning it into a billion-dollar company that powered sustainable solutions for underserved communities. Black-owned and proud, it employed thousands, but recent anonymous complaints hinted at discrimination in the ranks. Posing as Eli Jones, the new janitor, was his way to see the truth firsthand. He wiped a smudge from a glass door, his dark eyes scanning the lobby. Memories flashed. Growing up in Southside Chicago, where his father's factory job taught him resilience amid overlooked talent. Work twice as hard to get half as far, his dad had said. Elijah had flipped that script, but now he wondered if his own company had betrayed those roots. Enter Victor Lang, the mid-50s regional manager, striding in with a briefcase and a perpetual sneer. Lang was white, balding with a comb over, his tie too tight around a reddened neck, exuding the entitlement of someone who climbed a ladder on connections, not merit. He spotted Elijah near the elevators and froze, his eyes narrowing like he'd caught a thief. "Hey, what the hell are you doing here?" Lang barked, his voice echoing off the walls. Heads turned. Executives pausing mid-stride, a receptionist glancing up nervously. Elijah straightened, keeping his voice even. "Just cleaning up, sir. Part of the job." He gestured to his mop, water dripping softly. Lang stepped closer, his face twisting. "Cleaning? Looks like you're loitering. We don't need your kindness slowing things down." The words hung heavy, laced with unspoken venom. Elijah's pulse quickened, but he didn't flinch. He'd faced worse. Investors doubting his vision because of his skin color. But here in his own building, it stung deeper. "You're fired," Lang snapped, waving a hand dismissively. "Pack your crap and get out. I don't care who hired you. Probably some diversity quota nonsense." Gasps rippled through the lobby. A young intern, wide-eyed, pulled out her phone discreetly. Elijah met Lang's gaze, calm as stone. "Are you sure about that?" "I just started." Lang laughed, a harsh bark. "Positive. People like you don't belong here." Security. Two guards approached hesitantly, one black and one white, exchanging uneasy glances. Elijah's mind raced to his undercover plan. He'd informed only his board chair. This was a test, and Lang had failed spectacularly. As the guards flanked him, Elijah reached into his overalls pocket slowly. "Before I go, mind if I make a call?" Lang smirked. "Call whoever." "You're done." Elijah dialed, his voice low. "It's me. Activate protocol." The line clicked off. Lang crossed his arms, triumphant. But the elevator dinged, and out stepped Sarah Ruiz, Elijah's VP of Operations, a sharp Latina woman in her 40s, her expression thunderous. She'd been watching via hidden cameras, part of the sting. "Mr. Lang," Sarah said, her voice slicing the air. "Stand down." Lang blinked. "Ruiz? What's this about?" Elijah removed his cap, revealing his CEO demeanor. "It's about me, Victor. Elijah Grant, your boss." The lobby fell silent. Lang's face drained of color, his mouth gaping like a fish. "What? No, you're the janitor." Elijah's eyes hardened. "I was to see how my company treats its people, and you just showed me everything." Murmurs erupted, employees whispering, phones recording. The black guard stepped back, a small nod of respect. Lang stammered, I didn't know it was a mistake. A mistake rooted in bias. Elijah replied firmly. You created a toxic environment. Promoting your cronies, sidelining diverse talent. Complaints about you stack high. Flashback. Elijah poring over reports in his real office, reading emails from black employees passed over for raises, mocked in meetings. It mirrored his early career struggles, fueling his resolve. Sarah handed Elijah a tablet. We've got footage. Your comments violate company policy. Lang backed away, sweat beading. You can't fire me. I've been here for years. Elijah shook his head. Watch me. He turned to the gathering crowd. Apex stands for innovation and equality. Today, we start fixing what's broken. Applause trickled, then swelled. But as security escorted Lang out, Elijah's phone buzzed. An urgent text from his board. Bigger issue. Lang's not alone. Corruption ties to suppliers. Need you now. The lobby cleared, but Elijah knew this was just a spark. What he uncovered next would shake Apex to its foundations. The Chicago skyline glittered outside Apex Innovations Tower, but inside Elijah Grant's executive office, the air was thick with urgency. The mahogany desk was littered with employee complaints, supplier contracts, and a laptop screen glowing with encrypted emails. At 45, Elijah sat tall in his tailored suit, his close-cropped hair catching the morning light, his dark eyes sharp with resolve. Posing as a janitor had exposed Victor Lang's racism, but the board's text hinted at a deeper rot, corruption tying Lang to Apex's suppliers. As the black CEO of a billion-dollar tech firm, Elijah had built Apex to empower communities, not exploit them. Now, his own company was betraying that mission. The sting operation had gone viral. Clips of Lang's outburst, "Your kind don't belong here," spread across X with hashtag ApexJustice trending. Employees filled the company's internal forums with stories of Lang's bias. Black coders denied promotions, letting staff mock for accents. Elijah's chest tightened, recalling his South Side roots, where his father's factory job was a daily grind against prejudice. You expose one man, Sarah Ruiz, his VP of Operations, said, standing by the window in a sharp blazer, her dark hair pulled back. But the board's right. This goes higher. Sarah, a 40-year-old Latina with a no-nonsense edge, handed Elijah a folder. These are supplier invoices from Green Tech Solutions, Lang's pet vendor. Overcharges, fake deliverables, millions siphoned. Lang signed off on every one. Elijah flipped through, his jaw tightening. Green Tech supplied Apex's solar panels, critical for rural projects. If they were corrupt, entire communities were being shortchanged. He thought of his mother, who cleaned offices to fund his college, teaching him, integrity isn't negotiable. He called in Aisha Khan, a mid-30s civil rights lawyer hired to audit Apex's culture. Aisha strode in, her sharp suit matching her piercing gaze. Lang wasn't acting alone, she said, sliding a USB drive across the desk. Emails show he colluded with Green Tech's CEO, Randall Holt. They rigged bids to favor white-owned firms, sidelining black and minority vendors. Elijah's mind flashed to 2010, when investors dismissed his startup pitch, assuming a black coder couldn't lead. He'd proven them wrong, but now his own company echoed their bias. We need more than emails, Elijah said. Hard proof. Bank records, witnesses. Aisha nodded. I've got a whistleblower. Maria Chun, a procurement clerk. She's scared but willing to talk. Elijah leaned back, his calm masking a fire. This wasn't just about Lang. It was about dismantling a system that profited off exclusion. That afternoon, Elijah met Maria in a quiet cafe, away from Apex's glass walls. Maria, a 28-year-old Asian American with nervous eyes and a fidgeting pen, whispered. Lang and Hope met weekly at a country club. They bragged about keeping Apex white. Their words. I overheard, but when I reported it, Lang threatened my job. Elijah's heart sank, picturing his daughters, Zoe and Amara, dreaming of tech careers. What world was he building if Apex rewarded men like Lang? Will you testify? He asked. Maria hesitated, then nodded. For my kid, she deserves better. Elijah clasped her hand. So do we all. Back at Apex, Elijah convened an emergency board meeting. The room was tense, executives shifting in leather chairs. Sarah presented Maria's testimony and emails, while Aisha outlined legal risks, discrimination lawsuits, federal probes. Board member Carl Weaver, a white man in his 60s with a skeptical frown, challenged, "Firing Lang is one thing, but tanking Green Tech? They're our biggest supplier." Elijah's voice was steel. "They're stealing from us and our communities. We cut them loose or we're complicit." The board voted to suspend Green Tech's contract and launch an internal audit. Elijah insisted on transparency, a public report detailing findings. As the meeting ended, Sarah pulled him aside. X is exploding. Employees are rallying behind you, but Holt's fighting back. He's leaking claims you're overreacting to push a race agenda. Elijah's eyes narrowed. He'd faced smear campaigns before, building Apex against doubters. This was no different. That night, Elijah sat with his wife, Lena, in their cozy Chicago home. Lena, a 43-year-old community organizer with warm eyes and braided hair, squeezed his hand. "You're shaking things up, Eli. Proud, but scared for you." He smiled faintly. "Scared for us all if we don't fix this." His phone buzzed. A text from Maria. "Holt's planning something big. Check his offshore accounts. Urgent." The fight was far from over, and what Elijah uncovered next would threaten Apex's very existence. Prejudice festers in silence, but courage exposes it. True change starts when we stand for all, not just the powerful. If this story ignited you, subscribe and share. Join our community for more tales of justice. But what's Holt planning, and can Elijah stop it? Stay tuned for part 3. The Chicago wind howled outside Apex Innovations Tower, rattling the floor-to-ceiling windows of the boardroom where Elijah Grant stood. His tailored suit a stark contrast to the janitor's overalls he'd worn days ago. At 45, his close-cropped hair gleamed under the lights, his dark eyes burning with resolve as he faced the board. The viral sting exposing Victor Lang's racism had shaken Apex. But Maria Chen's tip about Green Tech Solutions' offshore accounts pointed to a deeper conspiracy. As the black CEO of a billion-dollar tech firm, Elijah had built Apex to empower communities, not enrich corrupt insiders. Now, he was unraveling a scheme that could destroy everything he'd fought for. The room buzzed with tension, executives shifting in their seats, tablets glowing with financial reports. Sarah Ruiz, the 40-year-old Latina VP of Operations, her dark hair pulled back in a tight bun, presented a damning spreadsheet. Green Tech's offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands funneled $12 million from Apex's contracts, she said, her voice sharp. Fake invoices, padded costs. Lang approved every one, with Randall Holt's sign-off. Elijah's jaw tightened, recalling his South Side childhood, where his father's factory wages barely covered rent due to corporate greed. This betrayal cut deeper. It was his company. Aisha Khan, the mid-30s civil rights lawyer, her sharp suit matching her piercing gaze, added, Holt's emails to Lang mention, keeping the circle tight. Code for excluding black and minority vendors. They blacklisted firms like SolarWorks, a black-owned supplier, despite better bids. Elijah's mind flashed to 2015, pitching Apex to skeptical investors who assumed a black CEO couldn't innovate. He'd proven them wrong, but now his own supply chain echoed their bias. Board member Carl Weaver, a white man in his 60s with a skeptical frown, leaned forward. Elijah, this could tank our stock. Green Tech is our biggest supplier. Are you sure you want to go nuclear? Elijah's voice was calm, but unyielding. Carl, they're stealing from the communities we swore to serve. We go public with this, or we're no better than them. Murmurs rippled. Sarah nodded. Carl scowled but stayed silent. Elijah met Maria Chen that evening in a dimly lit park, away from Apex's prying eyes. Maria, a 28-year-old Asian-American procurement clerk with nervous eyes and a fidgeting pen, clutched a USB drive. Holt's got a shadow ledger, she whispered. It tracks kickbacks to Lang and 2 other managers, Thompson and Klein. They're burying minority vendors to protect Green Tech's monopoly. Elijah's heart sank, thinking of his daughters, Zoe and Amara, who dreamed of tech careers. You're risking a lot, Maria, he said. She straightened. My daughter's 5. I want her to see a world where merit wins. Back at Apex, Elijah convened a crisis team. Sarah, Aisha, and a forensic accountant, Jamal Carter, a 35-year-old black man with meticulous air. Jamal's analysis confirmed Maria's claims. Thompson and Klein, both white managers in their 50s, had signed off on rig bids. They've been at it for years, Jamal said, adjusting his glasses. Holt's firm paid for their vacations, cars, even a boat. Elijah's mind raced to his early days, coding late nights to outshine doubters. Now, his own managers were selling out his vision. The next morning, Elijah confronted Thompson and Klein in a glass-walled office. Thompson, balding with a nervous tic, stammered, "It's just business, Elijah." Klein, smug with a slick smile, added, "You're blowing this out of proportion." Elijah leaned forward, his voice like steel. "You profited off prejudice, sidelining black and brown businesses. You're done." Security escorted them out as employees watched. Phones discreetly recording. Ex-post exploded. Apex CEO cleans house. Hashtag justice at Apex. But Holt wasn't going down quietly. That afternoon, a news outlet ran a hit piece. Apex CEO targets white managers in diversity purge. Elijah recognized Holt's tactics, smearing to deflect. He called a press conference, standing tall in the lobby where Lang had fired him. "This isn't about race. It's about right," he said, cameras flashing. "Apex stands for fairness. We're auditing every contract and elevating diverse suppliers." Cheers erupted, but Elijah knew the fight wasn't over. That night, he sat with his wife, Lena, a 43-year-old community organizer with warm eyes and braided hair, in their Chicago home. Zoe, 20, and Amara, 16, joined them, their faces proud but worried. "Dad, X is calling you a hero," Zoe said, showing her phone. Amara added, "But Holtz got powerful friends." Lena squeezed Elijah's hand. "You're shaking the system, Eli. Keep going." He nodded, but his phone buzzed. A cryptic email from an anonymous source. "Holt's meeting investors tomorrow. They're planning a takeover. Check the board." The sting had exposed Lang, but Holt's shadow loomed larger. What Elijah faced next could cost him Apex itself. Bias builds empires on lies, but the Apex Innovations boardroom was a battlefield of glass and steel. The Chicago skyline shrouded in twilight beyond the towering windows. Elijah Grant stood at the head of the table, his tailored suit crisp against his lean frame, his close-cropped hair catching the dim light, and his dark eyes blazing with unyielding purpose. At 45, the black CEO had exposed Victor Lang's racism and Green Tech Solutions corruption, but the anonymous email about Randall Holt's investor meeting signaled a new threat, a takeover bid to wrest Apex from his control. Elijah had built this billion-dollar tech firm to empower communities, not to be a pawn for greedy insiders. Tonight, he'd fight to keep it. Sarah Ruiz, the 40-year-old Latina VP of operations, her dark hair in a tight bun, stood beside him, her sharp eyes scanning a tablet. "Holt's meeting with Pinnacle Ventures tonight at the Union League Club," she said, her voice taut. "They're pushing a hostile takeover, claiming your instability is tanking Apex's stock." Elijah's jaw clenched, recalling his South Side roots, his mother cleaning offices to fund his dreams, teaching him to stand firm against doubters. Holt's smear campaign echoed those early investors who dismiss him as just a coder with a chip on his shoulder. Aisha Khan, the mid-30s civil rights lawyer, her sharp suit and piercing gaze radiating resolve, slid a dossier across the table. Pinnacle's board includes two of Holt's allies, former green tech investors. They've been buying Apex shares quietly, using shell companies tied to Holt's offshore accounts. Elijah's mind flashed to 2012, when he'd outmaneuvered a rival firm trying to steal Apex's patents. This was bigger, a coordinated attack to undermine his vision of equitable innovation. Jamal Carter, the 35-year-old black forensic accountant, adjusted his glasses, his meticulous expression unwavering. "I traced the accounts," he said, pointing to the spreadsheet. "Holt's funneled $20 million to Pinnacle through proxies. If they secure a majority, they'll vote you out." Elijah nodded, thinking of his daughters, Zoe and Amara, whose future depended on Apex's mission. He couldn't let Holt's greed destroy it. Maria Chun, the 28-year-old Asian-American procurement clerk, joined via video call, her nervous eyes flickering. "I hacked into Holt's calendar," she admitted, clutching a pen. "He's meeting Pinnacle at 8 p.m. They're planning to leak doctored financials to crash Apex's stock tomorrow." Elijah's pulse quickened. Maria's courage reminded him of his own risk-taking days, coding in a garage to defy expectations. "Can you get us in?" he asked. Maria hesitated, then nodded. "There's a back entrance for staff. I know a guy." That evening, Elijah and Aisha slipped into the Union League Club, a bastion of old money with mahogany walls and chandeliers casting golden light. Disguised in a waiter's uniform, Elijah moved silently, his cap low, blending into the bustle of servers. Aisha, posing as a guest in a sleek dress, carried a hidden recorder. They spotted Holt, 60, white, with a smug grin and slick-back gray hair, schmoozing with Pinnacle's O, a wiry man in a pinstripe suit. Holt's voice carried. "Grant's out of his depth. We'll take Apex, streamline it, less of this diversity nonsense." Elijah's blood boiled, but he stayed calm, serving drinks to avoid suspicion. Aisha caught his eye, signaling the recorder was rolling. Holt's word grew bolder. Lang was sloppy, but he kept the right vendors in play. Grant's too busy playing hero. Elijah thought his father, who'd faced factory foremen like Holt, men who saw black talent as a threat. He whispered to Aisha, "We need those financials." Aisha slipped into a side room, hacking a laptop left unattended by Pinnacle CEO. She downloaded the doctor reports. Fake losses pinned on Elijah's mismanagement. As they exited, a security guard eyed Elijah, his hand twitching to a radio. "Keep moving," Aisha murmured. They escaped into the night, hearts pounding. Back at Apex, Elijah convened Sarah, Jamal, and the board. Carl Weaver, the 60-year-old skeptic, frowned. "This is risky, Elijah. A takeover is legal if they've got the shares." Elijah's voice was steel. "Not if it's built on fraud. We go public with the recordings and financials before their leak." Sarah grinned. "That's checkmate." The board agreed, but Carl hesitated, his loyalty wavering. The next morning, Elijah held a press conference in Apex's lobby, where Lang had fired him. Cameras flashed as he played Holt's recording, exposing the takeover plot. "Apex stands for fairness," he declared. "We're severing ties with corrupt suppliers and uplifting diverse vendors." X erupted. Hashtag #SaveApex trended. Employees rallied. But as Elijah left, his phone buzzed, a chilling voicemail from Holt. "You think you've won, Grant? I got one last card, and it'll burn Apex down." The victory was bittersweet. Holt's threat loomed, and Elijah sensed a deeper betrayal within his own ranks. The Apex Innovations Tower stood defiant against the Chicago dawn, its glass facade reflecting a city waking to change. Elijah Grant paced his corner office, his tailored suit sharp against his lean frame, close-cropped hair catching the soft light, and dark eyes burning with a mix of triumph and unease. At 45, the black CEO had exposed Victor Lang's racism and Randall Holt's corrupt takeover bid, turning Apex into a beacon of accountability. But Holt's chilling voicemail, "I got one last card, and it'll burn Apex down," hung like a storm cloud. Elijah's South Side roots, where his father's factory job taught him, the fight against stacked odds, steeled him for what was coming. This wasn't just about saving Apex. It was about protecting a legacy for his daughters, Zoe and Amara. Sarah Ruiz, the 40-year-old Latina VP of Operations, her dark hair in a tight bun, burst in, her sharp eyes wide. "Elijah, Holt leaked fake emails to the press, claiming you embezzle funds to push diversity hires. They're calling for a shareholder vote to oust you." Elijah's jaw tightened, his mind flashing 2010, when investors scoffed at a black coder daring to lead. Holt's desperation reeked of that same prejudice. But this time, it was personal. "He's cornered." Elijah said, "Let's hit back harder." Aisha Khan, the mid-30s civil rights lawyer, her sharp suit and piercing gaze unwavering, joined them, clutching a laptop. "We've got Holt's real finances from a Union League hack," she said. They show he bribed board member Carl Weaver to sway the vote. Elijah's heart sank. Carl, the 60-year-old skeptic with a stern frown, had wavered during their last meeting. Betrayal from within Apex cut deeper than Holt's schemes. Elijah thought his mother's words. Trust is earned, not assumed. He'd trusted Carl too easily. Jamal Carter, the 35-year-old black forensic accountant, his meticulous expression focused behind glasses, spread documents on the desk. Carl's been taking payments from Holt's shell companies for months. $500,000 in total. He's pushing Pinnacle's takeover behind closed doors. Elijah's fists clenched, picturing Zoe, 20, and Amara, 16, who saw Apex as their future. We confront him, he said, but we need more, someone who's seen Carl and Holt together. Maria Chun, the 28-year-old Asian-American procurement clerk, met Elijah in a discreet downtown diner, her nervous eyes darting. I saw Carl at Holt's country club last month, she whispered, fidgeting with a pen. They were laughing about reining in Apex's diversity push. I recorded it. She slid a phone across, playing a grainy clip. Carl's voice smug, saying, Grant's out of his league. We'll make Apex profitable again. Elijah's blood boiled, but his face stayed calm. Maria, you're a hero, he said. She smiled faintly. For my daughter. That afternoon, Elijah stormed into a board meeting, Sarah and Aisha at his side. Carl Weaver sat at the table, his thinning gray hair slicked back, his stern face feigning innocence. Elijah, these embezzlement claims are serious, Carl began, but Elijah cut him off, projecting Maria's recording on a screen. The room froze as Carl's voice echoed. Board members gasped. One dropped her pen. Carl's face reddened. This is fabricated, he sputtered. Like your loyalty? Elijah shot back, his voice steady but searing. You sold out Apex for Holt's bribes. He laid out Jamal's finances, showing Carl's payments. Sarah added, We're calling an emergency vote to remove you, Carl. The board, shaken, agreed unanimously. Security escorted Carl out, his protest drowned by murmurs. X lit up. Hashtag Apex Cleanse trended as employees posted support. Elijah's fighting for us all. But Holt wasn't done. That evening, Elijah's phone buzzed with a news alert. Pinnacle Ventures had filed a lawsuit alleging Apex's board was coerced into blocking their takeover. Holt's face smirked on TV, claiming, Grant's witch hunt is ruining a great company. Elijah met with his wife, Lena, a 43-year-old community organizer with warm eyes and braided hair, in their Chicago home. Zoe and Amara flanked them, worried but proud. Dad, you're trending again, Zoe said, showing ex-posts praising his stand. Lena gripped his hand. You're shaking the system, Eli. Don't stop. As Elijah prepared for the lawsuit, Aisha rushed in with a bombshell. Holt's got a mole inside Apex, she said. Someone's leaking our legal strategy to Pinnacle, and they've got dirt on you, something from your past. Elijah's heart skipped, his mind racing to a buried secret from his early startup days, a deal he'd regretted but thought was long forgotten. If Holt had it, Apex could crumble before the fight was over. The Chicago skyline glowed with defiance as dawn broke over Apex Innovations Tower, its glass walls a testament to Elijah Grant's decade-long fight to build a black-owned tech empire. At 45, Elijah stood in his office, his tailored suit sharp against his lean frame, close-cropped hair catching the light, dark eyes steady despite the storm within. Randall Holt's lawsuit and the mole leaking Apex's legal strategy threatened to unravel everything. With a buried secret from Elijah's past, his one regret now in Holt's hands. As the black CEO who'd exposed Victor Lang's racism and green tech as corruption, Elijah knew this final battle would define Apex's soul and his legacy for his daughters, Zoe and Amara. Aisha Khan, the mid-30s civil rights lawyer, her sharp suit and piercing gaze unwavering, burst in with a tablet. We found the mole, she said, her voice tight. It's Denise Harper, HR director. She's been feeding Holt our defense plans. Elijah's heart sank. Denise, a 50-year-old white woman with a polished resume, had seemed loyal, championing diversity policies. But Aisha's evidence, encrypted emails, showed Denise leaking Holt for a promise board seat at Pinnacle Ventures. Elijah's mind flashed to 2008, his startup days, when a shady deal with supplier nearly tanked Apex. He cut ties, but the paperwork lingered, a mistake Holt now held as leverage. Sarah Ruiz, the 40-year-old Latina VP of Operations, her dark hair in a tight bun, joined them, her sharp eyes blazing. "Holt's using that old deal to paint you as corrupt," she said. "He's presenting it to shareholders tomorrow to force a vote." Elijah's jaw tightened, recalling his father's Southside wisdom. "Own your mistakes, son, or they'll own you." He'd buried that deal to protect Apex, but now he'd face it head-on. Jamal Carter, the 35-year-old black forensic accountant, his meticulous expression focused behind glasses, spread documents across the desk. The deal's legit on paper, but Holt's twisting it to look like embezzlement. "We got records proving you severed ties and repaid losses." Elijah nodded, thinking of Zoe, 20, and Amara, 16, who saw Apex as a beacon for black excellence. "Then we go public with the truth," he said. "No more secrets." Maria Chun, the 28-year-old Asian-American procurement clerk, met Elijah in a secure Apex conference room, her nervous eyes steadying. "I dug deeper into Holt's emails," she said, clutching a USB drive. "He's bribing regulators to stall Apex's contracts if the takeover fails." Elijah's pulse quickened, picturing his mother, who cleaned offices to fund his dreams. Maria's courage mirrored hers. "Will you testify at the shareholder meeting?" he asked. Maria nodded. "For my daughter's future." The next day, Elijah faced a packed shareholder meeting in Apex's auditorium, cameras streaming live on X. Holt stood smugly, a 60-year-old white man with slick-back gray hair, presenting doctored slides claiming Elijah's mismanagement. Elijah took the stage, his voice calm but resonant. 10 years ago, I made a mistake, a bad supplier deal. I fixed it, repaid every cent, and built Apex into a force for good. Holt's lies are a distraction from his corruption." He played Maria's evidence, Holt's bribe emails, drawing gasps. Aisha followed, exposing Denise's betrayal, while Jamal presented financials clearing Elijah. Sarah stepped up, her no-nonsense tone cutting through. Apex's profits are up 20% under Elijah, with diverse vendors driving innovation. Holt's takeover would gut our mission. The room erupted in applause, shareholders nodding. Holt's smirk faded, his face paling as X lit up with hashtag Apex stands. But Denise, in the back, slipped out, her face grim. That evening, Elijah stood at a press conference in Apex's lobby, where Lang had fired him as a janitor. "We've severed ties with green tech, fired corrupt managers, and launched a diversity fund for minority vendors," he declared. "Apex is for everyone." Cheers rang out, but Elijah's eyes caught Zoe and Amar in the crowd, their proud smiles grounding him. Later, at home, his wife, Lena, a 43-year-old community organizer with warm eyes and braided hair, hugged him. "You didn't just save Apex, Eli, you reshaped it." Zoe added, "Dad, you're trending as a hero." Amara grinned, "Told you you'd win." Weeks later, Holt faced fraud charges. Pinnacle's takeover collapsed, and Denise resigned in disgrace. Apex's stock soared, and its diversity fund empowered black and brown businesses, fulfilling Elijah's vision. But as he reviewed new supplier bids, a cryptic note arrived. "You won this round, Grant, but the game's not over." Signed only with a symbol, a crescent moon, the fight for justice had transformed Apex. But a new shadow was rising. Bias blinds, but truth builds. Leadership means fighting for all, no matter the cost. Subscribe and share to join our movement for change. But who sent that note, and what's their game? Stay tuned for the next chapter.